Becky from the Montgomery County Norristown Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make quesadillas. And a quesadilla is basically a Mexican grilled cheese sandwich using tortillas instead of bread. So it's a very simple recipe and you can do a lot of things with it, customize it to make it your own. So before we get started, I just want to go over some basic housekeeping things that you should always do before you cook in the kitchen. First of all, make sure all your surfaces are clean. Your stove, your counters, your table, wherever you're going to be doing your work. And you can just use dish soap and hot water and a clean cloth to just wipe your surfaces to make them clean. Wash your hands. Always wash your hands. If you have hair that hangs in your face or that you're always fussing with, tie it back, get it out of your face so you don't have to touch it. If you have any jewelry that could fall into your food or get in your way that you have to fiddle with it, take it off. Any clothing that could flop into your food or in your cooking surface, or that you would have to keep fiddling with to get it out of the way, change your clothes. The basic idea is that you don't want to have to be touching anything with your hands but the food. So if you have glasses and they fall down, push them up with the back of your hand, scratch your nose with the back of your hand, cough or sneeze into your elbow or shoulder. Just don't touch your face or touch anything with your hands. It's just like coronavirus rules. You wash your hands often, don't touch your face or any surfaces. So anytime you forget and you scratch your nose with your hand, just wash them. You can't ever wash your hands too much in the kitchen. So I think that's everything. We're going to talk about now the ingredients you need and the supplies you need. So the basic ingredients that you need are tortillas, and they can be flour or corn. And the ones that were originally used were corn, but flour works just fine, and that's what I have. These are small fajita tortillas, which are a little bit too small, but it's what I have on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. The recipe calls for 8-inch around. These are 6-inch, so they're going to be a little bit smaller. You can use the big burrito tortillas if you have them, or if that's what's available, but you'll need 2 tortillas. You need some cheese. This is some leftover cheddar that I had. Monterey Jack or Colby Jack is good. There is some Mexican white cheese. I forget what it's called right now, but probably someone watching knows what it is. You can use that. Actually, any kind of cheese that you like or that you have on hand can work. You could even use American if you want, but if you want to stay authentic, you know, try to go towards the Monterey Jack or the Mexican cheese. If you have block cheese, you're going to need a grater, and I'll show you how to use that. If you don't have a grater, you'll need a knife because you'll need to cut the cheese into small pieces. You need a little bit of oil for the pan, and that is basically all the ingredients you're going to need to make a basic quesadilla. Now, if you want to jazz it up, if you have some leftover meat from another meal, say you had a rotisserie chicken and you have some of that left over, you can throw that in. Leftover taco meat would be cool. Beef, you know, if you had a steak and you can shred it up or cut it up. Pork, hamburger, anything like that can work as an additional ingredient. You can also use onions or peppers or chiles. You can put them in raw, but they're not going to really cook because it doesn't heat for very long. So you'll have crunchy raw bits of vegetable if you don't cook them first. And what I like to do when I have the time is slice up onions and peppers and saute them a little bit in some butter or a little bit of oil, just enough to make them soft. And then you can put those in the quesadilla to make like a fajita quesadilla. You could put vegetables in there like corn or beans. Make sure they're drained, and or any kind of vegetable really that you want. You could do some shredded carrots or shredded zucchini or sliced, or you can make it whatever you want. You can experiment. This is a great recipe to experiment with. Any kind of leftovers in your fridge you can throw in there. But I'm just going to show you the basic way to make just a plain cheese quesadilla. So now the equipment you need, of course you need a frying pan. And this is a non-stick, but you can use any kind. A cast iron skillet works well. It's very heavy. You need a 1/2 cup measure for the cheese. And something to flip your quesadilla. So now I'm going to show you how to make it. So the first thing is to get your pan heated, and you're going to heat it on medium. Oops, this one. Like a 5 or 6 on my electric stove. You do halfway on a gas stove. Gas stove has the little flames that come up, and the electric has coils. So you want medium heat. You want to take this slow. You don't want to hurry it. I know you're hungry, but take your time. Now, you have to put some oil in the pan. And how I do that is I take a paper towel, and you don't want to puddle. You just want enough to make sure it doesn't stick. So I just put the paper towel, I hold it against the top and just tip it a little bit till some seeps out into the paper towel. Just a little. And you should probably do this before you turn the heat on. And we're just going to rub the surface a little bit, just so that the tortilla doesn't stick. So while that's warming up, I'm going to grate the cheese. So if you're using an 8-inch tortilla, you're going to need about 1/2 cup of cheese. I'm going to put slightly less on mine because it's smaller. So you just take your cheese and run it down over the grater. And you can see it's coming out in little strips. If you don't have a grater like this, you just got to be careful you don't grate your fingers. I've done that more times than I care to admit. And if you only have a knife and not a grater, just make sure that you keep your fingers curled in a claw, and you just make little slices. And if your cheese crumbles, that's okay. Oop. So you can either do this or grate it. If you grate it, you can sprinkle it better. If you slice it, you lay it down, but it all melts, so it doesn't really matter what form you put it on. Put it in. Okay, so now I'm getting down to the, just have to be careful when you get down to the bottom of the cheese. And I always just run my hand inside because some sticks inside. Okay, so there, that looks to be a generous 1/2 cup. Okay. So now we're going to hope that our pan is heated up enough, and we will proceed. So the next thing is to lay the tortilla in the pan, and it's sizzling, so we know it's hot. And you're going to sprinkle your cheese on it. Try not to get it in the pan. You know, but just let it sit in there. If you want to, you can cover it if cheese melts faster that way. Now, if you're adding other ingredients, you're going to need about, if you're using an 8-inch tortilla or larger, you're going to need about a 1/2 cup of additional ingredients. Like if you had meat and onions and peppers, you would need a 1/2 cup of all of those combined. So, and you're going to just put it on 1/2 of the tortilla, because we're going to fold it over when it's all ready to flip. So we're just going to keep a watch. The cheese is starting to melt right here a little bit. I'm going to take a peek underneath and see what's happening. See, it's starting to get brown. So we want to let it warm in there. And probably, if you're adding ingredients, you should probably, unless you really want them raw, you should probably heat them up, warm them up in the microwave, or toss them in a little oil in a pan just to get them warm to put on top there. Okay, that's melting pretty nicely. And let's see what the bottom looks like. Ooh, looks very nice and brown and spotty the way it's supposed to. Okay, now this is the trick because my pan is really slippery. You're just going to fold it over, press it down. You want to let it in there for a minute. Just make sure all the cheese is melted. And take it out. And if your pan is non-stick and prepared the right way, you can just slide it off like that. Okay. Hot, hot, hot. Okay, I'm going to make the next one. And you can see, if you think you need more oil, you can just saturate the paper towel again and do another wipe. But I think I'm good here. Let me get those little cheese crumbs out of the way. Put the other tortilla on there. And I have probably enough of this cheese to do another one. And you can add spices to this as well. If you have some taco seasoning, you can sprinkle a little bit on here. You can sprinkle on some cilantro or chili powder or anything that strikes your fancy. Just going to try to, the sliced pieces are going to take a little bit longer to melt probably. So whatever you like to add there. And just let that melt again. And if you're making a bunch of them, if you want to heat your oven or toaster oven to 200 degrees and put them on a pan and keep them warm in there till they're all cooked, you can do that. And that will help keep the cheese melted too till you're ready to eat it. Yeah, that's going to take a little bit longer. Just standing here watching cheese melt. Okay. Ooh, the bottom's getting. And if it starts to get too dark too fast, you can always turn the heat down. I'm going to fold this right now and smush it down. Melty cheese. All right, I'm going to take that out and put it over here with this one. Now we're going to let that cool for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to cut it into wedges. It's inevitable that something goes wrong every time I record. And this time it didn't show me cutting up the wedges, but I mean, that's a no-brainer. You can just cut your piece in half or into quarters. There's only 3 because I already tasted it because I thought I was recording. But here we go. If you like, you can put salsa, sour cream, guacamole, I don't know, ketchup, whatever you like as your condiment, and enjoy. Yummy. And now, for free, I'm going to show you how to make American grilled cheese. So the equipment for a grilled cheese sandwich is pretty much the same. You have a pan and a flipper. The ingredients are similar. You need 2 slices of bread. Whoops. Not bump the camera. 2 slices of bread. 2 slices of cheese of your choice. I just happen to have Kraft Singles American. You can use any kind of sliced deli cheese that you like. Cheddar, mozzarella, Swiss, provolone, whatever. We always have this in our house. It's what my husband likes. I would prefer anything else, but I will eat this. Okay, so we have 2 slices of cheese in the center. And then we are going to spread some melted or softened butter. It needs to be soft so it doesn't rip your bread up. So butter, margarine, whatever kind of spread you have. The non-butter spreads tend to have water, and the softer it is, the more water it has in there, so you may not want to use that. It'll make your bread a little soggy. Now, if you don't have any of those things, you can also use mayonnaise, believe it or not. I just discovered this recently that, you know, many chefs use mayonnaise rather than butter for their grilled cheese. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't really taste like mayonnaise after it's cooked. So we'll try one side with each and we'll compare the results. And now we're going to put the sandwich in the pan and toast it like we did the quesadilla. Okay, so we've already got our pan heated from the quesadilla. Heat it on medium. Again, we want to take our time. We don't want it to burn, because there's nothing worse than a black grilled cheese sandwich. So we're just going to let that sit there, let that butter melt, let the cheese melt, and let the bread get all nice and toasty. And that's just going to take a few minutes. Now, you can experiment with grilled cheese as well. You could put a slice of lunch meat in there, like some ham or salami, or bologna if you like it. You could put, some people like to put very thinly sliced apples in there. I've always wanted to try that, but never did. I don't know. My son-in-law likes to coat his butter with lots of spices, like garlic powder and oregano and whatever he can find in the cupboard. He's a little bit crazy, but he likes it that way. It gives it a little more flavor. You could put some pickles in there, maybe. Well-drained sliced pickles. Uh-oh, got a little dark. See, I wasn't paying attention. That's okay. That'll be all right. My favorite way to eat grilled cheese is with tomato soup. I like to dip it in the tomato soup. And I just use a can of Campbell's tomato soup and always put milk in it instead of water. That makes it creamier, more delicious. Okay, so this is the butter side. And now we're toasting the mayonnaise side. And the cheese is melty. So we're good. So we just need it toast a little. Oh, let it a little bit more. Mayonnaise has a lot of oil in it, so that is how you can toast a cheese sandwich with mayonnaise. So we'll see how it looks. Yeah, that's more like it. I probably have the heat up a little bit too high. Probably should have been maybe a 4. But there we go. Here's our grilled cheese sandwich, and we'll cut it open and see what it looks like. Okay, so some people like to do the diagonal cut. I like to do it this way. You cut it however you like. My husband likes diagonal. And there we go. There's our squishy cheese inside. It's still hot, so I'm just going to cut a little piece off there. See what it tastes like. Toasty, cheesy, melty, and like I said, you can't taste the mayonnaise. Good. So enjoy your snack, your lunch, and have fun experimenting.